This is about the worst I've seen her, actually. So I'm very pale.
Worse than that night?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
So I'll let you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think I should come back?
Well, if you want to see her, yeah, but you've already seen her for like several months. So this is completely up to you. It's a very difficult decision to make, honestly.
Yeah, that's the hard part, because you never know. Like, it could just be, she could just be sick for a little bit, or this could...
I tend to doubt it, but then again,
Yeah.
it's grandma.
That's what I'm saying. With her, you like literally never know, because there's been like years where we're like, well, this must be it, and then it's like, nope.
Yeah, I know. So if she's still like this tomorrow, I'll let you know, and then you can come back.
Okay.
If you feel like that's something you want to do.
Welcome to episode 4 of Lex Manifests. My name is Lex. This episode is called Death is a Doorway. This episode's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little heavier and extremely vulnerable. There's a lot of really important lessons here, and I think it's something that we should talk about more frequently, as it's something everyone is going to experience in this lifetime, both with people we love and us personally. I did a grief training a little over a year ago, and one of the first things that was said is, everyone you love and everything you love, you will lose. And it hit me pretty hard when she said that. And there's two different sides to that. On one side, that's completely devastating. And on the other side, it really is a call to be more present, to be more kind, to really truly appreciate the things you have while you have them. I don't like the idea of not knowing what you have until it's gone. I feel like it's important to make an effort to know what you have while you have it. And I think as we talk about it a little bit more, it can bring in a lot more peace. I've gotten a very clear glimpse into the doorway between worlds. And despite how challenging it was, there was a lot of deeply rooted peace and a lot of really beautiful revelations that also came from it. And these are universally applicable to everyone who will experience it. What you heard at the beginning of this podcast was part of the call I got from my mother. And I've gotten many of these calls over the last few years saying that grandma's not doing very well. And I'm going to play another portion of the call at the very end of this podcast. But this time, it just felt different. Something in me said, this is it. And I had this really interesting experience of almost an ethereal cloud-like energy that came in and was pushing me to go immediately. And I've had that experience of that exact cloud-like feeling that came in. And every time I have, it's been very, very profound, and I've learned to listen. When I got back to my hometown, I lived at the care facility with my mom 24/7. And it's really common for elderly folks, once they are in what is called transition, which is the transition between this life experience and the next, it's common that they will start to fall a lot more. And that was happening with my grandmother. And basically what would happen is, in the middle of the night, she would wake up and need to go to the bathroom, and she would forget that her body can no longer support her. And so she would start to get up on her own, and every time she would fall. So my mom and I stayed at the care facility because she literally needed 24/7 monitor, because she was doing this every couple hours. And there's no way, unless somebody was in the room, that it could have been stopped. So we weren't really sleeping. It was maybe for up to an hour at a time max for the entire week we were there. And even through the sleep, it wasn't really sleep, because it was an active listening state. And anytime my grandmother would stir, and I would sit up, notice it, watch, make sure that she wasn't trying to get up, and then maybe go back to sleep, maybe not. And whenever she would start to stir, there was about 30 seconds we had to get up and make sure she wasn't scooting herself off of the bed. So, as you can imagine, everybody was in a bit of a twilight zone from lack of sleep. She was on hospice, which means we had a nurse, we had a hospice specific nurse coming in every day to make sure she was as comfortable as possible. And they said it's very common during this transitionary period from this life to the next that the people in transition will start getting visitors from friends and family that have already transitioned and are on the other side. And we got to witness this firsthand. My grandmother was having out loud conversations with family that had passed. And I'm talking family that had recently passed and also family, like distant family that had passed quite a long time ago. And she would always call them by name. So we always knew who she was talking to. And some of them were full blown conversations out loud. And something my grandmother liked to do in this lifetime was square dancing. And at one point, she heard square dancers in the basement and was talking about all the dancing and talking to somebody down in a field. She was like, "What are you doing down in that field?" and calling them by name and just full conversations. And while this was happening, I had a very deeply rooted sense of peace that came in because to me, this signified that she was being extremely well supported on both sides, both in this life experience by myself, my mother, and all the nurses. And she did have a lot of visitors coming in, and also on the other side by family that had transitioned that were visiting her nonstop. And like I said, hospice said this is very common and happens most of the time. And it's almost always a positive experience where it's like they're having the way showers of the other side, people they trust coming in to help guide the process and make it more comfortable and less scary. This doorway that we experienced was so energetically strong. There's really no way to explain it other than it being an actual doorway to both sides. And you could see as my grandmother would be on the other side having these conversations, and then she would kind of come back, have conversations here. She seemed a little bit more disoriented here on this side. And it was a slow transition where she was coming back and forth and then slowly more and more on the other side until there was a point where she was pretty much just engaging on the other side. My grandmother knew a lot of people and was very loved by a lot of people, so it was only appropriate that she had a whole crew on the other side coming in. And it was just really cool to not only witness this, but hear her call these people by their names. And it was people we all knew. And maybe I didn't know some of them because they had passed before I was born, but my mom was like, "Whoa, this is that person." And it was just a really unique and beautiful and difficult. And there were so many words to describe the experience during that. I think a lot of our fears in this life can be traced back to not feeling safe, which is ultimately the fear of pain and or death. I've also heard of and know people personally who have been in pretty extreme accidents, and as it happened, they said time really slowed down. It was like going into that. I think what it actually is a pretty intense adrenaline rush, which allows you to act in a way that is necessary for survival or whatever it may be in that moment. But as the big accident or whatever is happening, time completely slows down. And many people have reported actually going outside of their bodies and watching whatever's happening happen to their bodies. So it's often like they don't even really experience the full pain while it's happening. I used to be a little bit obsessed with near-death experiences, and I read a lot on them. Reason being is I've actually had one myself. I did go into the tunnel, I saw the light, I had the floating feeling, and it was just this really deeply rooted peace and a knowing of like, wow, I died. Okay. And started floating towards the light. It's this immense feeling of love and just feeling okay that overtook my entire body. And then I felt it was almost like a hand came and just like pushed me back into my body and was like, "Nope, not time." And I remember waking up and was like, "What just happened?" Because I don't know what triggered it. And I don't know why that happened. It was during a time in my life where I was making a lot of questionable decisions. But when that happened, I did become a little bit obsessed with learning from other people and their experiences, and come to find a lot of people had very similar experiences where they are not just the light, not just the tunnel, but where they were pulled out of their bodies during something very intense. Like if the body was experiencing intense harm or in a big accident, it's almost like this mercy that happens where you don't actually experience it. And of course, this does not apply to all the times, but there's been many occasions where this is true. And in the case of my grandmother, I do believe that her consciousness had left her body a little bit before she actually took her final breath. Me and my mom were there up until and beyond that point, and I could almost feel her slash see her just slightly up and to the right of her body. And it's like I was getting buzzed with this reassuring energy, and I'm pretty convinced it was her. Death is a doorway for the living just as much as it is for the people who are actively in transition. It's a doorway of honesty, of insight, of reevaluation and tenderness, and so much more. I have lost quite a few people who I've been very close with, and every single time it brings in such a reevaluation and a level of honesty with self that I have never experienced in any other circumstance. It's definitely a reevaluation of sorts, and it makes you really think about priorities, or it makes me really think about my priorities and how I'm showing up in the world and what is bothering me and what I'm getting excited about and where I'm putting my energy, and is it worth it? Is this actually what I want to do with my time while I'm here? Because although it feels like there's so much time, I'm only in my 30s, that's still a quarter of my life if I lived a full life expectancy. So death of someone close has always made me reevaluate a lot of things, and it's always come with really, really intense lessons. When I first got back to California, everything was making me cry, and it's been a little the past couple days, I feel like I've balanced it out a little bit better, but it's still, you kind of never know when the grief waves are going to come. And like when I saw the ocean again for the first time, I completely lost it. Listening to some music and hearing lyrics and seeing kindness, seeing sadness, and thinking about things in my past that have hurt. I never know what's going to trigger it, but death brings in a deep soul level release. A common theme that I've witnessed and actually found really surprising, I experienced it myself, is I didn't realize how beautiful my grandmother was until after she was gone. And I made the tribute video for her, and I was watching people react to it at her service, and I heard at least a dozen people say the same thing, that they didn't realize how beautiful she was while she was alive. And my grandmother actually said the same thing about her husband, my grandfather. When he passed, she didn't realize how handsome he truly was until after he was gone. And it's just such an interesting thing. Like, what is it that we didn't see? Is it just now that the internal light has shifted to somewhere else and now we notice? And I just find that really fascinating of what is it that wasn't seen until that consciousness or that light was elsewhere. And I'd like to make it a very strong point to start to see that deeply held beauty within everyone around me while they're still living. And 3 really important things that I've learned through my experiences with loss is, 1, if somebody is in the hospital or something's going on and you're not really sure if you should go visit them or go to where they are and you can go, always go. I had an experience many years ago where my friend was hospitalized and she wasn't much older than me. And so in my head, I thought, oh, she's young. She's just going to the hospital for a little bit. It's going to be okay. I had the opportunity to go see her one day and I didn't because I was a little tired and I had some errands around the house I needed to do. And I just made up excuses and just didn't want to go. I assumed there was time. And I had to go do a job. I worked for Katy Perry in a different city, and on my way back, I started to think, okay, now is a good time. Now I've got plenty of time off. I'm going to go see her. On my way back, she passed. And that is something that had me pretty messed up for a while. And I learned that deeply. Like, if you have the opportunity and you're not sure, always go. You'll never regret going. You can make up the money. When I went to Nebraska this time, I missed some really big stuff. I missed going and learning how to drive a race car. I missed some concerts I had booked, some things that were big and quite expensive, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not what matters. You can always make those things up, but you're never going to get that time back with that person if something happens. Another really big lesson that I've learned over and over and over is don't wait to tell people what they mean to you. I had a really incredible experience when I managed a bulk food store. They gave me full reign of the discounts that I could do in the store, and so I made up the dancing discount where if people would dance, I would give them 10% off their entire order. They had to dance while they were shopping. And I ended up getting so many people to dance, they had to limit it to 2 days. Otherwise, the entire store was starting to become a 10% off store. But I had one woman who came up and chatted with me, and she seemed a little off, but I just talked about the things I was loving at the time. And one thing I really enjoyed doing was intuitive stretching, and I need to do this again, but it's where you move your body in ways that are just like maybe kind of strange. You just put on a little bit of music. It's kind of like intuitive dance, but it really gets the energy flowing in your body. And it's an awesome feeling. If you even just right now while you're listening, just kind of like move your neck, shoulder, and arms in ways that are a little abnormal and feel the difference in how energy starts to move. Well, doing this at home to some music, your whole body, by yourself if you're embarrassed, or with some friends that are awesome, it makes a difference. And I had talked to this woman about that. I didn't really think much of it, but about a month later, she came back and pulled me aside to talk to me. And she says, "You saved my life." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Do you remember talking about this?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course." And she said, "I went home and did that. And it changed everything. I was in a really dark space. I was not doing well. And me doing this dance that you had recommended changed so much. I'm in a positive place now." And she just kept talking about how her entire world had shifted. And she said I saved her life. And whereas I know I was just talking and relaying an idea. Ultimately, she put forth the action, but I would have had no idea that I made that type of impact on someone's life had she not told me. I've thought about this so frequently of how we have such an effect on the people around us and we don't even know. And this goes both ways. This goes for positive and for harmful. So I do my best to be mindful with the things that I'm saying and the energy I'm bringing to a space because I know how much we affect each other. And again, don't wait to tell people how they've had an impact on your life because you never know. You could be changing their life as well just by telling them what they've done for you. I have a lot of people I'll be reaching out to, and there's a lot of people who already know the role they've played in my life, and there's a pretty significant amount of people who have no idea the type of role they've played in my life. And I'd really like to make it a point to just let people know. And another big thing is don't sweat the little stuff. It is amazing to me seeing the things people freak out and get upset over. And I know while you're in it, it seems so big, but if we all can make the conscious decision to take a step back and really fast forward and look at the bigger picture, and are you going to worry about this a year from now? Are you even going to remember that this small thing happened? And maybe you will, maybe you won't, but does it really matter? And if it does, that's great. If it doesn't, maybe just take a second and just don't sweat it. Move on. A day after my grandma transitioned, I saw both her and my grandfather. They came to my room and I saw them out the corner of my eye very clearly. They were both their younger, more vibrant selves, and they were in a rural setting and there was a big barn and a field behind them. Typically, when people authentically come to you out of body, it's not an actual verbal conversation that happens. It's more of a direct cognition, almost like a zip file that gets transferred, and you just know what's being communicated. And I think they will typically show up to people who they know will recognize what's happening. And grieving is a really weird process when you remember past lives and when you do have experiences with beings that are outside of their body and when they're coming to you and when there's communication happening. And part of me wonders what we're actually grieving. Like, is it just that we're no longer able to engage with that consciousness in that specific body? Or are we grieving the unknown? I don't really know what it is, but it does make grieving really complicated when you have extrasensory experiences. And so many of us are detached from the true magic of this life and all of the different possibilities. We're so quick to write things off as imagination or delusion. And maybe that's what it is, but I personally have had plenty of experiences where that truly does not seem to be the case. Life would be a lot more magical in the day to day if we honored and made a conscious effort to really see the different magical things in each moment and opened our minds up a little bit with a lightness and a curiosity and a little bit of awe and a lot of bit of trusting ourselves and trusting our intuition, unafraid of what we're going to look like to the people around us, while being mindful of the energy that we're bringing to the space and how we're affecting the people around us. And again, four of the biggest lessons that I have learned through really in this lifetime, and especially through experiences of loss. If you're not sure if you should go, and you can go, always go. Don't wait to tell people what they mean to you. Don't sweat the little stuff. And see the beauty in the people around you. The deep, deep soul level beauty that comes out in so many different ways while they're still alive. Are you with her right now?
Yeah. Do you want to tell her you love her?
Are you sure?
Yeah. Here, I'm just going to put you on speaker. Mom, it's Alexa. Go ahead and speak, Lex.
Hello, grandmama.
Hello, granddaughter. She said, hello, granddaughter. I love you.
I love you very much.
I love you, my
I love you more.
no.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing, Grandma?
Loving my daughter. She said loving her daughter.
Yeah, she's pretty lovable.
Yeah. All right. That's probably enough, Lex.
Okay, I love you, Grandmama.
I love you. Don't forget. She said, don't forget. She loves you.
I'll never forget. But it's not a competition.
And I loved you as a child. You were such a non-child. But we all loved you. Even though we're anxious. We're anxious. So we love you. Mom, tell her good night. Good night, my dear.
Good night. Good night, Grandma. I love you.
Yes. Bye, Lex.
Bye.
I need to call Jerry.
Okay.